Hare Krishna. So we're in,
where are we?
we're Red Line Square.
Red Line.
Behind us is Conway Hall, which those of you who know London, ISKCON London Yatra history, it's a sacred place because Srila Prabhupada came to Conway Hall more than once and gave talks and kirtans with the original 6 devotees. So if you look in some of the autobiographies of the devotees or the Leela and Rita, you'll see pictures of Conway Hall and Prabhupada. So we have volunteers, dinners and programs here. It's a very sacred place. So we're sitting near it.
If you go back through the history, you'll see we did at least
Canto 1 we did it.
Canto 1 we read here. That was during the beginning of lockdown.
Yeah. Okay.
So here we are now in Canto 3.
Canto 3, Chapter 14, Text 20. The chapter is entitled Pregnancy of Deity in the Evening.
Remember that? Yeah.
In the evening.
In the evening, like.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Anyway, I don't know how to chant the mantra.
It's me who don't know how to chant. I have to start in the rain.
Text 20. As a fort commander very easily conquers invading plunderers by taking shelter of a wife, by taking shelter of a wife, one can conquer the senses, which are unconquerable in the other social orders. Purport. Of the 4 orders of human society, the student of the brahmachari order, the householder or grihastha order, the retired or vanaprastha order, and the renounced or sannyasi order, the householder is on the safe side. The bodily senses are considered plunderers of the fort of the body. The wife is supposed to be the commander of the fort, and therefore whenever there is an attack on the body by the senses, it is the wife who protects the body from being smashed. The sex demand is inevitable for everyone, but one who has a fixed wife is saved from the onslaught of the sense enemies. A man who possesses a good wife does not create a disturbance in society by corrupting virgin girls. Without a fixed wife, a man becomes a debauchee.
Debauchee.
Debauchee?
He doesn't wear Gucci.
Debauchee of the first order and is a nuisance in society. Yeah. Unless he is a trained brahmachari, vanaprastha or sannyasi, unless there is rigid and systematic training of the brahmachari by the expert spiritual master, and unless the student is obedient, it is sure that the so-called brahmachari will fall prey to the attack of sex. There are so many instances of fall down, even for great yogis like Vishwamitra. A grihastha is saved, however, because of his faithful wife. Sex life is the cause of material bondage, and therefore it is prohibited in free ashrams and is allowed only in the grihastha ashram. The grihastha is responsible for producing first quality brahmacharis, vanaprasthas and sannyasis. That's a very powerful line, isn't it? The grihastha is responsible for producing the other 3 ashrams.
In what way? I was going to ask, what do you think that means? Producing them?
Like literally producing them.
You mean by giving birth to them?
Yeah, in the first instance, but then also the irony is the parents would give such an upbringing, whether to send the child to a Gurukul or maybe modern, not everyone has access or wants to send the child away, but bring them up in such a way that they are good brahmachari or brahmacharini mood, mentality, good principles, good standards, and then they go on to obviously become either sannyasis, lifelong, celibate, whatever, or get married and become a vanaprastha. But it starts with the grihastha ashram, which is interesting as well, because oftentimes with the immature or neophyte view, the other ashrams, especially the brahmachari ashrams, can look down on the grihastha ashram. But actually it's a very powerful ashram. And from that ashram, as it's explaining here, in terms of just the senses, which who doesn't have problems with the senses? And just all ashrams do, all of them, and not just grihastha ashram, but in that ashram, you can actually control and protect and become very spiritually advanced and powerful. And if it wasn't for the grihasthas, we wouldn't be sitting in front of Conway Hall and calling it a holy theatre, which it is, because three grihastha couples came with their baby, one of them the baby, and set up the whole of the land in Yatra. Hare Krishna.
Yes. Okay. I mean, I was thinking that another way that they produce is because if you look, I think in the film industry, the producer is usually the person who provides the funding, more or less. And so the Grihastha ashram is also responsible for the production of the other ashrams with regards to the principle of funding. Because in general, brahmacharis, okay, they collect alms, yes. Sannyasis beg from door to door, but who do they beg from? Who do all of them go begging from? The grihasthas, so like that. So then it's starting to rain a little bit, but we're going to tough it out here because it's come so far to here and chant. But so in that way, the grihasthas are also the main economic earners for the ashram. So therefore, they're producing. So this is very powerful purport. All these are very nice purports for grihasthas.
Yes.
Very encouraging section for the grihastha ashram. Important to read and understand. It's very practical. It's not trying to Srila Prabhupada is not trying to cover or smooth over something and pretend. He says it straight up. Sex desire is there. That's the fact. But the senses are plunderers. So we have to find a place of shelter, and then our senses can be protected in that place of shelter. Let's say it's speaking primarily from the man's side, but the man is protected from the senses with a good wife, and then of course the wife receives shelter. So the man should be giving shelter. And of course, I really liked, as you mentioned, the debauchery is prevented in civilized society because the man is happy at home. He has a faithful, good wife.
The some men are never happy.
It's true. I know that feeling. Okay, we're moving right along now. Yes. Okay. So anyway, these are really powerful.
Don't highlight now when we got to move on.
No, we like to highlight. We highlight the highlights. So, text 21. O Queen of the Home. So now, I guess, Kashyapa Muni is speaking directly to Diti. To Diti, not Aditi, but to Diti. O Queen of the Home, we are not able to act like you, nor could we repay you for what you have done, even if we worked for our entire life or even after death. To repay you is not possible, even for those who are admirers of personal qualities. Interesting. So much glorification of a woman by her husband indicates that he is henpecked or is talking lightly in joke. That's not so nice, is it? Maybe he's being serious. I mean, I was thinking, yeah, it's true, isn't it? But anyway, that's probably because I'm a henpecked husband. Kashyapa meant that householders living with wives enjoy the heavenly blessings of sense enjoyment and at the same time have no fear of going down to hell.
Wow.
I've got to kick in here. The man in the renounced order of life has no wife and may be driven by sex desire to seek another woman or another's wife and thus go to hell. Interesting. In other words, the so-called man of the renounced order who has left his house and wife goes to hell if he again desires sexual pleasure, knowingly or unknowingly. Oh, that's some heavy stuff. In that way, the householders are on the side of safety. Prabhupada repeating the point again. Therefore, husbands as a class cannot repay their debt to women either in this life or in the next. So then Prabhupada takes it back to saying, it's true. So after saying they're henpecked, then he basically says, no, it's true. Even if they engage themselves in repaying the women throughout their whole lives, it is still not possible. Not all husbands are able to appreciate the good qualities of their wives, like Nitai Das. Oh wow, it mentions me when you say But even though one is able to appreciate these qualities, it is still not possible to repay the debt to the wife. Such extraordinary praises by a husband for his wife are certainly in the mode of joking.
Interesting.
I don't quite get it, Prabhupada. You get it? Yeah. Let's just accept it. No, but it's. I think it's interesting that Prabhupada begins by saying it's being said in jest, and that it's the sign of a henpecked husband. Then he qualifies how it is true, and then at the end he says it's a joke. Yeah. So, I mean, the fact of the matter is that it is true. That, because, previous verses talk about the wife, she's the better half because we're sharing auspicious things. A man can move without anxiety. One can cross over the ocean with a sea-going vessel. One can cross a dangerous situation in the material ocean by living with a wife. So these are all qualifications, so it's very powerful. But yeah, I mean, in one sense, okay, that's a little bit of a, I mean, for sure it can be said in jest. Maybe not all men can really appreciate their wives, as Prabhupada said.
Yeah.
But also, maybe not all wives are worth being appreciated. Just like all husbands probably certainly aren't worth being appreciated. Likely one of them.
Text 22.
Okay, we're moving right along.
Even though it is not possible to repay you, I shall satisfy your sex desire immediately for the sake of begetting children. But you must wait for only a few seconds so that others may not reproach me. Purport. The henpecked husband may not be able to repay his wife for all the benefits that he derives from her, but as for begetting children by fulfilling sexual desire, it is not at all difficult for any husband unless he is thoroughly impotent. I'm missing out commas, hold on. But as for begetting children by fulfilling sexual desire, it is not at all difficult for any husband unless he is thoroughly impotent. This is a very easy task for a husband under normal conditions. In spite of Kashyap's being very eager, he requested her to wait for a few seconds so that others might not reproach him. He explains his position as follows.
Thoughts?
No. Let's move on to see what's going on.
Okay. Text 23. This particular time is most inauspicious because at this time the horrible-looking ghosts and constant companions of the Lord of the Ghosts are visible. And who is the Lord of the Ghosts?
Shiva.
Shiva. Purport. Kashyapa has already told his wife Diti to wait for a while, and now he warns her that failure to consider the particular time will result in punishment from the ghosts and evil spirits who move during this time, along with their master, Lord Rudra. Okay.
Text 24. Lord Shiva, the king of the ghosts, sitting on the back of his bull carrier, travels at this time, accompanied by ghosts who follow him for their welfare. Lord Shiva or Rudra is the king of the ghosts. Ghostly characters worship Lord Shiva to be gradually guided toward a path of self-realization. Mayavadi philosophers are mostly worshippers of Lord Shiva. And Sripad Shankaracharya is considered to be the incarnation of Lord Shiva for preaching godlessness to the Mayavadi philosophers. Ghosts are bereft of a physical body because of their grievously sinful acts, such as suicide. The last resort of the ghostly characters in human society is to take shelter of suicide, either material or spiritual. Material suicide causes loss of the physical body, and spiritual suicide causes loss of the individual identity. Mayavadi philosophers desire to lose their individuality and merge into the impersonal spiritual Brahmajyoti existence. Lord Shiva, being very kind to the ghosts, sees that although they are condemned, they get physical bodies. He places them into the wombs of women who indulge in sexual intercourse regardless of the restrictions on time and circumstance. Kashyap wanted to impress this fact upon Diti so that she might wait for a while.
Okay, so I think
It's raining a lot.
it's starting to rain.
We're going to leave it on that cliffhanger.
Yeah. Okay, so remember, okay, you can hear the storm is actually coming, so thank you very
We've
much.
upset someone, obviously.
No,
Hopefully not Rufa.
no, I don't think so. Actually, the rains come with the positivity of yajna, you know.
Oh, yeah,
when the
yeah,
gods
that's
are
true,
pleased
yeah.
with yajna, there comes rain.
All
So
right.
we've been doing the Sankirtan Yajna, Grantaraj Srimad
Bhagavatam.
Bhagavatam Ki
Jai.
Jai.